Hey guys, tonight we're diving into how ordinary Romans actually lived their lives. Forget marble statues and slow-motion gladiator scenes. I'm talking about the guy who sells fish at dawn, the woman hauling water up 4 flights of stairs, the kid chasing rats out of a bakery. Trust me, you probably wouldn't last a day. So before you get too comfortable, hit that like button if you enjoy time travel without the smell, because tonight there will be smells. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. And as always, dim the lights, get comfortable, maybe light a candle if you're feeling dramatic. Just maybe not a scented one. You wake up in Rome. Not the Rome of postcards, the Rome of 100 AD. Population, about 1 million. Personal space, non-existent. You're not rich. Of course you're not rich. You're ordinary. Which means you wake up in a cramped apartment called an insula. It's basically an ancient Roman version of a sketchy walk-up with no elevator and questionable plumbing. You're on the 3rd floor. Congratulations, it could be worse. The 5th floor has worse water pressure, by which I mean no water at all. Your mattress? A sack stuffed with straw, possibly yesterday's straw. The air smells like smoke from last night's cooking fire, damp stone, and whatever your downstairs neighbor is fermenting. You stretch, a bit of plaster falls from the ceiling. Good morning. You pull on your tunic. It's simple wool. It cratches. It's also probably the only one you own. Laundry day involves stomping on clothes in a mixture of water and urine. Yes, urine. The Romans used it for cleaning because ammonia is a powerful detergent. There were public urine vats on street corners. Emperor Vespasian even taxed them. Imagine getting taxed for peeing. Before coffee, because there is no coffee, you head downstairs. The stairwell is dark and steep. You pass a neighbor carrying a chamber pot. You make eye contact. You both know. Outside, the street is already alive. Vendors shout, donkeys bray, metal clangs. Somewhere a baby cries. Somewhere else, someone is arguing about bread prices like it's Black Friday at a supermarket. You smell fresh bread from a nearby bakery, warm, nutty, comforting. And then, immediately, you smell the open sewer running along the side of the street. Rome had amazing engineering, aqueducts, roads, concrete that still survives today. But waste management? Let's just say you watch your sandals carefully. You grab breakfast, bread dipped in wine or water, maybe some olives if you're lucky. Meat is rare for you. That's more of a feast day luxury. And no, there's no avocado toast. If you're a laborer, you're heading to a construction site. Maybe you're helping build a bath complex, a temple, or repairing a road. The empire always needs something built. Empire doesn't maintain itself. You lift stone, you haul bricks, you sweat under the Mediterranean sun. Your back aches, your hands are calloused. There's no HR department, no safety harness. If a scaffold collapses, people shrug and keep building. If you're a woman of modest means, your day might be spinning wool, weaving cloth, managing the household, shopping in the market, raising children. Work never really stops. There's no me time, no streaming break, just endless tasks measured in baskets of grain and piles of laundry. And if you're enslaved, which many ordinary people were, your life is even harsher. You have no legal identity of your own. You are property. You cook, clean, tutor children, work mines, row ships. Your fate depends entirely on your owner's mood and morality. Let that sink in for a second. Now, here's the twist. Despite all this, Rome is buzzing. You walk through the forum on your break. It's loud, chaotic, alive. Politicians shout speeches, merchants wave contracts, gossip spreads faster than Wi-Fi. You hear news from Britain, from Egypt, from places you'll never see. The empire stretches across 3 continents, and somehow the rumors reach your ears before lunchtime. It feels big. You may be poor, but you're part of something massive. By midday, the heat is brutal. Sweat runs down your back, your tunic clings. You dream of shade. And that's when you remember the baths. Ah, the baths. For a small fee, sometimes even free thanks to a generous emperor, you enter a world of steam and echoing marble halls. This is where ordinary Romans socialize, relax, and pretend they don't smell like a construction site. You undress, yes, fully. Modesty levels, 0. You step into warm water, muscles relax, the room hums with conversation. Deals are made, friendships are forged, politics debated. It's part spa, part gym, part group chat. Then comes the strigil, a curved metal scraper. Instead of soap, you rub oil on your skin and scrape off dirt, sweat, and grime. It's deeply satisfying and mildly horrifying. You leave feeling almost luxurious. Now that you've survived work and bathed like a civilized human, let's talk dinner. Back home, you eat pottage, a thick stew of grains and vegetables, maybe lentils, maybe cabbage, if you're lucky, a bit of salted fish. You sit with family or roommates, or both. The room is dim, lit by oil lamps that flicker and smoke. You talk about the chariot races. Ah, yes, the chariot races. The Colosseum gets all the hype, but the Circus Maximus, that's where ordinary Romans lose their minds. Picture a stadium holding over 150,000 people. That's more than many modern sports arenas. You have a favorite team, the blues, the greens. You scream yourself hoarse as horses thunder past in a blur of dust and danger. Crashes are common. Drivers die. The crowd roars anyway. It's ancient NASCAR with higher stakes and fewer seatbelts. At night, the streets grow darker and more dangerous. There are no streetlights. Crime happens, gangs roam, fires break out easily in crowded wooden buildings. You bolt your door, or at least you wedge something heavy against it. You lie back on your straw mattress. Your body aches. Your stomach is full enough. Outside, Rome never fully quiets. You hear footsteps, laughter, a distant argument. You think about the emperor. You've probably never seen him, but his face is on coins in your pocket. His decisions shape your taxes, your safety, your future. You are small in this empire, but you're not invisible. You are the reason it runs. Ordinary Romans built the roads, baked the bread, raised the children, filled the armies, packed the arenas. Without them, the marble temples would just be empty shells. And here's the strange part. In some ways, you're not so different from them. You worry about rent. They worried about rent. You complain about politicians. So did they. You obsess over sports teams. They literally rioted over theirs. You scroll through social media. They gossiped in bathhouses. Different tools, same human drama. So next time you see a polished statue of a Roman senator, remember the person living above a bakery in a crumbling apartment, shaking dust from their hair at sunrise. History isn't just emperors and generals. It's you. So tell me, do you think you'd survive a week in ancient Rome, or would you be sprinting back to modern plumbing by day 2? And if you want to keep this journey going, the most natural step is this. What was it really like to be a gladiator in the Roman arena?
All right, you survived a day as an ordinary Roman. You didn't fall into the sewer. You didn't get crushed by scaffolding. You didn't get mugged in a dark alley. Not bad. But here's the thing about Rome. One normal day is manageable. It's the rest of your life that gets interesting. So lean in a little closer, because now we're stepping beyond the daily grind and into the deeper layers of what it really meant to be ordinary in the greatest empire on earth. And trust me, ordinary did not mean boring. Let's start with something you probably haven't thought about: religion. No, not quiet, peaceful, candlelit religion. I'm talking loud, smoky, animal sacrificing, omen reading. Did that chicken just predict my future? Religion. You wake up one morning, and before you even step out the door, you toss a small offering at your household shrine, the lararium. It's a tiny corner in your apartment dedicated to the household gods. Little painted figures watch you from the wall. You murmur a quick prayer, not because you're especially holy, but because in Rome the gods are everywhere, and you do not want to offend them. There's a god for doorways, a god for crossroads, a god for boundaries, a god for sewers. Honestly, it's like divine customer service, and you're constantly trying to stay on their good side. If your business fails, maybe you forgot an offering. If your kid gets sick, maybe you angered someone upstairs. Divine upstairs, not just the neighbor with the chamber pot. And here's the twist. Religion isn't private, it's public. Festivals fill the streets. Processions wind past your building. Priests in bright robes lead bulls decorated with flowers toward sacrifice. The smell of incense mixes with, well, everything else. Blood hits stone. Crowds cheer. You're not just watching, you're part of it. Now, let's talk about family. Because in Rome, family isn't just love and support, it's law. At the top stands the pater familias, the oldest living male. He holds legal power over everyone in the household, children, wife, enslaved people, even adult sons. Yes, even adult sons. Imagine being 35 years old, married with 2 kids, and legally your dad still controls the family property. Awkward Thanksgiving vibes, Roman edition. If you're a child, your world is strict. Discipline is normal. School, if you're lucky enough to attend, involves memorizing speeches, copying texts, and occasionally getting smacked with a stick for slouching. Education isn't about self-expression, it's about becoming useful. And if you're a girl in a modest family, you're likely married in your early teens. Marriage isn't about romance, it's about alliance, security, survival. And here's where Rome feels strangely modern, because despite all this structure, this hierarchy, there's ambition everywhere. You might be poor, but maybe your son joins the army. The Roman army isn't just fighting, it's a career path, a ladder. 25 years of service and you earn citizenship, land, status. It's the ancient version of start from nothing, build your future. Except instead of a laptop and Wi-Fi, you get a shield and sandals. You train brutally. You march for miles carrying heavy gear. You build forts at the end of those marches. You fight in lands so cold you've never imagined snow like that. And when you return home, if you return home, you're different. You've seen the edges of the world. Now, let's shift gears, because not everything in Rome is work and worship. There's entertainment beyond the races. The theater. You squeeze onto wooden benches, shoulder to shoulder with strangers. Actors in exaggerated masks stomp across the stage, projecting their voices to the heavens. Comedies mock politicians. Tragedies retell myths full of betrayal and revenge. The jokes are crude, the satire sharp. Honestly, some things never change. The crowd laughs at slapstick, gasps at dramatic twists, throws the occasional insult if the performance drags. It's chaotic, it's loud, it's alive, and you feel connected. That's the secret thread running through ordinary Roman life: connection. Yes, your apartment is cramped. Yes, your work is hard. Yes, disease is common. Let's not even get started on plagues sweeping through packed neighborhoods. But you are never alone. Your life spills into the street. Your neighbors know your business. You know theirs. You borrow tools, share food, argue, reconcile. When someone dies, the funeral procession moves right through the city. Musicians play. Mourners wail dramatically. Masks of ancestors are worn in public display. Death is not hidden away, it's witnessed, it's communal. And here's something else you probably didn't expect. Graffiti. Everywhere. On walls, in alleyways, near bathhouses. I was here. I love her. So-and-so is a thief. Political endorsements, insults, jokes so immature they would fit perfectly in a modern high school bathroom. 2,000 years ago, someone carved Secundus likes boys, and somewhere Secundus groaned in eternal embarrassment. Ordinary Romans weren't marble statues. They were messy, loud, petty, romantic, jealous, hopeful, human. Now, pause for a second. Picture yourself again in that narrow apartment. The oil lamp flickers. Outside, Rome hums like a living organism. You don't know that centuries from now, people will study your pottery shards, your coins, your graffiti. You don't know the empire will fall. All you know is tomorrow you'll wake up again, tie your tunic, step into the noise, try to earn enough to eat, try to keep your family safe, try not to anger the gods. And maybe, if you're lucky, laugh at something ridiculous in the forum. It's easy to look at history and see only emperors and epic battles, but empires are powered by ordinary mornings, by bakers kneading dough before sunrise, by mothers teaching children to speak, by workers hauling stone, by soldiers writing letters home. If you've made it this far, let me ask you something. Strip away the smartphones, the cars, the electricity. What really separates you from them? Comfort, technology, or just time? Because ambition, fear, love, boredom, gossip, hope, that's timeless. So next time you're stuck in traffic or waiting in line for coffee, imagine a Roman grumbling beside you about bread prices and chariot teams. Different century, same sigh. And if you're ready to go even deeper into this world, the next chapter we should open is this. What was it like to walk the streets of Rome during a massive public festival when the entire city transformed into chaos, color, and controlled madness?
All right. You've worked, you've prayed, you've bathed, you've survived the crowds. Now the city is about to lose its mind because it's festival day. And not the polite, small-town parade kind of festival. I'm talking about Saturnalia. If Rome had a reset button, a week where rules bent, roles flipped, and chaos was not only allowed but encouraged, this was it. So come on, step back into your sandals. It's December. The air is cooler, sharp in your lungs. The city feels electric before sunrise. You can hear it in the way doors slam open, in the way voices carry a little louder than usual. Today, work stops. Yes, stops. Construction sites go quiet. Courts close. Schools dismiss. Even the strict, stone-faced father of your household loosens up, because Saturnalia is dedicated to Saturn, the old god of agriculture, and for a few days, Rome pretends the world is upside down. You wake to laughter, real laughter. Garlands of greenery hang from doorways. People wear bright colors instead of the usual drab tunics. And most shocking of all, your enslaved household members sit at the table, and you serve them, just for today. Masters pour wine, slaves joke freely. It's symbolic, temporary, and yes, a little uncomfortable. Imagine your boss handing you coffee and saying, actually, you're in charge today. That's the vibe. But underneath the humor, there's tension. Because everyone knows this freedom has an expiration date. Still, for now, the city breathes differently. You step into the street. Music echoes from somewhere nearby. Flutes, tambourines, off-key singing. Someone shouts, Io Saturnalia, like it's the Roman version of Happy New Year. Strangers grin at you. You grin back. There's gambling in the open. Dice clatter against stone. Coins exchange hands quickly. Normally, gambling is frowned upon. Today, go for it. You might lose your week's wages in 10 minutes. Worth it. Gift giving is part of the ritual. Small clay figurines, candles, trinkets. Nothing extravagant for ordinary people, but meaningful. You hand your friend a simple oil lamp. He hands you a little carved statue that looks suspiciously like a poorly made goat. You pretend to love it. Now here's where it gets interesting. Saturnalia isn't just party vibes, it's pressure release.
Rome is a rigid society. Rank matters. Status matters. Law matters. For most of the year, you know exactly where you stand. But during Saturnalia, you taste something else. Freedom of speech, sort of. You can mock politicians in public. You can tease your social superiors without immediate punishment. Satirical poems circulate. Jokes fly. It's like the entire empire collectively decides to exhale. And you feel it. You shout louder, laugh harder, drink more than you should. The wine flows freely, thick, dark, watered down but still strong. Your cheeks flush, your head grows warm. By midday, the streets blur into a moving mosaic of color and noise. Vendors sell roasted nuts, honey cakes dripping with sweetness, sausages sizzling over open flames. The smell is intoxicating. Smoke, sugar, meat, sweat, wine. You can barely hear yourself think. And maybe that's the point. Because ordinary Roman life is hard, short, uncertain. Child mortality is high. Illness can strike without warning. Fires can erase entire neighborhoods overnight. Saturnalia reminds you that joy exists anyway. You pass a group of young men wearing the pileus, the soft cap associated with freed slaves. During the festival, everyone can wear it. It's symbolic, a whisper of equality. Temporary, yes, but powerful. You catch yourself wondering, what would Rome look like if this lasted all year? And then someone stumbles into you, laughing, and spills wine down your tunic. Back to reality. As night falls, the city doesn't calm down. It grows louder. Torches flicker against stone walls. Shadows leap. Songs grow sloppier. Somewhere, someone is passionately arguing about whether the greens would dominate the chariot races even if Saturn himself drove for the blues. It's nonsense. It's wonderful. You head home unsteady, your ears ringing. Inside, the oil lamps glow warmly. Your household, family, servants, whoever shares your cramped space, sits together, bellies full for once. And in that moment, Rome doesn't feel crushing. It feels human. Now let's zoom out for a second, because festivals weren't the only moments when the city transformed. Disaster did that too. You're asleep one night when you smell it. Smoke. Not cooking smoke. Thick, bitter, urgent. You sit up, shouting outside. Fire spreads fast in a city built of wood and tightly packed buildings. Flames leap from roof to roof like they're chasing each other. You grab what you can, maybe a small chest of coins, maybe a family caretaker, maybe nothing at all. People pour into the street. Buckets pass hand to hand. Panic pulses like a heartbeat. There is no professional fire department as you know it. There are bucket brigades, organized groups, yes, but limited. You watch as an entire insula collapses in sparks and screaming wood. Everything someone owned, gone in an hour. Rome is magnificent and fragile. The next morning, smoke still lingers. Ash coats the street like gray snow. But already, plans begin to rebuild. Because that's what ordinary Romans do. They rebuild. They adapt. They endure. And that endurance shapes the culture more than marble ever could. Now, I want you to imagine something else. You're older. Years have passed. Your hair is grayer than it used to be. You've seen emperors rise and fall. Some good, some less good. You've watched new gods enter the city, foreign cults from distant lands, Isis from Egypt, Mithras from Persia, whispers of a strange new sect that worships a single god and meets in secret. The empire shifts around you constantly, and yet your street remains. Your bakery still opens at dawn. Your neighbor still complains. Children still chase each other past columns older than their grandparents. Empires feel eternal when you're inside them. You don't see the cracks forming in the distance. You just live. You wake, you work, you celebrate, you survive.
And here's the part that hits hardest. If someone from 2,000 years in the future looked back at us, what would they see? Would they see our skyscrapers and assume we were powerful? Would they scroll through our digital graffiti and laugh? Would they understand our daily struggles the way we're trying to understand yours? Ordinary Romans didn't know they were ancient. They were just alive, just like you. And maybe that's the real bridge across time. So, if you've made it this far, tell me, would you thrive in the chaos of Saturnalia? Would you rebuild after the fire? Or would you quietly carve your thoughts into a wall somewhere, hoping someone someday might read them? And if you're ready to step even deeper into the shadows of this empire, the next story we should tell is this. What happened when Rome's ordinary citizens began to believe in a new religion that would eventually change the entire world?
All right. The city is still roaring outside your window. Festivals, fires, emperors, gossip. It never really stops. But now something quieter is happening. Something small. Something easy to miss. You hear about it the way Romans hear about everything, through whispers. Not official announcements, not marble inscriptions. Whispers. A neighbor mentions a group that meets before sunrise, not in a temple, not in the open, in someone's house. They don't sacrifice animals. They don't burn incense to Jupiter. They don't care about Saturnalia. Weird, right? You're curious. Of course you are. This is Rome, the city that collects gods like souvenirs, Egyptian gods, Persian gods, local river gods. Adding one more to the shelf shouldn't be a big deal. But this one is different. This group says there is only one God, just one, and he isn't tied to a mountain or a river or a city. He's everywhere. You raise an eyebrow. That's new. They say this God became human, lived among ordinary people, was executed by Roman authority, and then, here's the wild part, rose from the dead. You blink. Sure, you mutter, and my neighbor's goat is secretly Apollo. But the whispering continues. You notice something else. The people joining this group are ordinary, very ordinary. Craftsmen, women, enslaved people, a few merchants, even the occasional soldier. Not senators, not high priests, not celebrities of the forum. Why? Because the message is strange and powerful. It says your status doesn't matter, not your wealth, not your citizenship, not your family name. In the eyes of this God, slave and free are equal. Man and woman are equal. Roman and foreigner are equal. Now pause. Imagine hearing that in a society built on rank and hierarchy. That's not just religious, that's disruptive. You're standing in the marketplace when someone mentions that these people refuse to sacrifice to the emperor. Refuse. You glance toward the nearest statue of Caesar. That's dangerous. Emperor worship isn't just religious, it's political loyalty. To refuse is to stand out, and standing out in Rome is rarely safe. Still, the movement grows. You see small changes. A woman who used to visit every temple now skips the sacrifices. A baker closes shop early on certain days. A soldier removes a charm dedicated to Mars and replaces it with a simple symbol scratched into wood. You hear them talk about love, about forgiveness, about eternal life. And here's the part that really hooks people. They take care of each other. When someone is sick, they show up. When someone is poor, they share food. When plagues sweep through the city, and they do, many Romans flee. These strange believers, they stay. They nurse the dying. They bury the dead. They risk infection. You notice. Everyone notices. And not everyone likes it.
Rumors start. They're atheists. They hate the gods. They eat flesh and drink blood. A misunderstanding of symbolic rituals, but try explaining theology to a panicked crowd. Fear spreads faster than facts. Soon, arrests begin. You're in the street when soldiers drag a small group away. No dramatic music, no heroic slow motion, just chains, just dust, just the heavy silence of people pretending not to see. You feel it in your stomach, because now it's real. These aren't just whispers anymore, they're targets. Some are executed publicly, some are sent to arenas, not as gladiators, as spectacles. And here's where it gets complicated. You're in the crowd one day when a condemned believer is brought out. You expect pleading, begging, cursing Rome. Instead, there's calm, a strange, steady calm. The crowd murmurs. You shift uncomfortably. This isn't the reaction you were prepared for. The spectacle feels off. And seeds are planted in strange ways, because Rome is used to power displayed loudly, strength, dominance, triumph. But this is quiet conviction, and quiet conviction spreads differently. Years pass, emperors change, some crack down harder, others don't care much. The movement keeps growing, house by house, family by family. You might not join. Maybe you stay loyal to the old gods. Maybe you hedge your bets and whisper a prayer to both Jupiter and this new god, just in case. Romans love insurance policies. But you can't deny it anymore. Something is shifting. The temples still stand. The festivals still happen. The chariot races still roar. But beneath it all, the spiritual map of Rome is being redrawn. And here's the twist you don't see coming. Generations later, long before your time, this once whispered belief will move from hidden rooms to imperial palaces, from secret gatherings to state religion. The empire that once executed its followers will adopt its symbol. The cross, once a tool of Roman punishment, will become a sign carried by emperors. Imagine that reversal. You don't know any of this, of course. You just know your neighbor seems different, kinder, braver, or maybe just more stubborn. And life goes on, because ordinary Romans don't have the luxury of pausing history to analyze it. You still wake up early, still work, still argue about bread prices, still dodge carts in the street. History doesn't feel dramatic when you're living it. It feels like Tuesday. That's the haunting part. Revolutions rarely announce themselves with fireworks. They creep, they whisper, they gather in kitchens before dawn. And one day you look up and realize the world you were born into isn't the same world anymore. So let me ask you something. If you were there, really there, would you have dismissed these early believers as naive? Would you have reported them to protect yourself? Would you have joined them? Or would you have done what most people do in every era? Kept your head down, tried to survive? Because ordinary Romans didn't think they were living through one of the most important turning points in world history. They were just trying to make rent, just trying to stay warm, just trying to keep their kids alive. And yet, through those ordinary lives, the course of civilization bent in a new direction. That's the strange power of everyday people. They don't just fill history, they change it. And if you're ready to keep walking forward through the cracks forming in this empire, the next story we need to tell is this. What did it feel like when Rome, the unstoppable, eternal Rome, began to fall?
All right. Take a breath. Because the ground under your sandals is starting to shake. Not literally. Not yet. But something feels off. You're older now. Or maybe this is your grandson.
or your granddaughter. Same street, same city, different mood. Rome still stands. The temples haven't vanished. The markets still open at dawn. But the confidence? It's thinner. You hear it in conversations. Grain shipments are delayed again. Taxes went up. Another emperor? Wait, another one? Yes, because emperors aren't lasting like they used to. One dies, another is declared. Another is assassinated. Another is proclaimed by the army somewhere far from Rome. It's starting to feel less like divine destiny and more like a political game of musical chairs. And you're not sitting near a chair. You're standing in line at the bakery when someone mutters that soldiers on the frontier haven't been paid in months. That's not good. An unpaid army is like a hungry wolf. It will find something to bite. You notice more soldiers in the city, not marching proudly, lingering, watching. The coins in your hand feel lighter too. Literally. The silver content has been reduced. Debased, we'd call it. To you, it just means prices climb faster than your wages. Inflation. Yes, even ancient Rome had it. You stare at a loaf of bread and think, wasn't this cheaper last year? Spoiler. It was. Meanwhile, far beyond the city walls, pressures build. You don't know the full map. You've never seen the Rhine or the Danube. But you hear the names. Goths. Vandals. Franks. To you, they're distant rumors. To the empire, they're a tide pushing at the edges. Some come to raid. Some come to trade. Some come because they're being pushed by something even bigger from farther east. And Rome, the mighty Rome, can't quite decide whether to fight them, hire them, or invite them in. Sometimes it does all three. You walk past the Forum one afternoon and see something strange. Statues are being moved. Bronze melted down. Metal repurposed. The grandeur feels recycled. And then it happens. Not the final fall. Not the dramatic movie scene. Just a moment. You wake to news that the city has been breached. Not destroyed. Breached. Barbarian forces have entered Rome. You freeze. Because this doesn't happen. This is Rome. The eternal city. The place that conquered the world. You step into the street. The air hums with panic. People clutch belongings. Doors slam shut. Rumors sprint faster than horses. Temples looted. Houses burned. They're at the gates. But here's the part history doesn't always show you. It's chaotic. Confusing. Some neighborhoods are hit hard. Others barely touched. Life doesn't end in a single dramatic explosion. It frays. Treads snap. You see foreign warriors in armor you don't recognize. Long hair. Different accents. Different gods. But they're not monsters. They're people. Hungry. Ambitious. Looking at Rome the way Rome once looked at the world. As opportunity. As wealth. As something to take. You hide what little you have. You wait.
And after days of fear, the storm passes. Rome still stands, damaged, humbled, but standing. You exhale. But something fundamental has changed. The myth is broken. Rome can be touched. Rome can bleed. From that point on, the idea of invincibility never quite returns. The empire splits formally into east and west. The eastern half grows stronger, richer, more stable. The western half, your half, struggles. Leadership weakens. Local strongmen gain power. The army increasingly relies on foreign recruits. You notice your neighbors changing too. More people speak different languages in the marketplace. Clothing styles shift. Old traditions blend with new ones. It's not a clean collapse. It's a slow transformation. Taxes grow heavier. Public buildings fall into disrepair. Aqueducts aren't maintained as carefully. You fetch water from sources that used to be pristine and notice the difference. Rome becomes less marble and more memory. And then, one day, another emperor is deposed. Romulus Augustulus. Even the name feels symbolic. Romulus, like the legendary founder. Augustulus, a little Augustus. A small emperor with a very big title. He's removed from power. There's no fiery apocalypse. No cinematic end credits. Just a quiet shift. A Germanic general takes control. And that's it. That's the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Did you feel it? Not really. You still wake up. Still work. Still argue about bread prices. Still light lamps at night. But something invisible has ended. The empire that defined your world for generations is no longer officially in charge. And here's the strangest part. Life continues. The roads are still there. The language still spoken. The laws still influence daily life. The church, that once whispered movement, now grows stronger, filling the vacuum of political stability. Your grandchildren won't call themselves Romans in quite the same way, but they will inherit Roman ideas, Roman roads, Roman words, Roman habits. Empires don't vanish like smoke. They sink into the soil. They become foundations. Now pause. Imagine standing in that moment. You've lived through festivals and fires, through religious revolutions, through invasions, through economic chaos, and yet you're still here, ordinary, alive. History books will call this the end of an era. To you, it feels like another uncertain morning. That's the humbling truth. The people who live through the fall of civilizations rarely realize they're in a chapter title. They're just trying to get through the week. So, let me ask you, if you felt your world shifting beneath you, would you cling to the past? Would you adapt? Would you even notice? Because someday, historians might look at our era and debate when things changed. When one world ended and another began. And we'll just remember paying bills, going to work, laughing at dumb jokes, trying to stay steady while the ground quietly moves. Ordinary Romans didn't stop being human when their empire fell.
They adjusted. They survived. They became the bridge between the ancient world and the medieval one. And that might be the most powerful legacy of all. So, if you're ready to continue this journey beyond Rome, beyond itself, the next story we should explore is this. What was daily life like in the early Middle Ages, when the shadow of Rome still lingered over a very different world?